Hello and welcome to Woodfired Weekly at Manna from Devon Cooking School. We're outside here, beautiful sunshine, beautiful summery day. So we are going to cook a nice rice and fish dish. We could call it a paella, but I know that we're sort of straying into dangerous territory when we call it a paella. Someone will tell us that we're not doing it in the perfectly authentic way, and a paella, of course, wouldn't be cooked in a wood-fired oven. It would be cooked on an open fire. But we're going to see if we can get pretty close. We're going to be cooking in the Morso oven, which we've got heated up ready, and we've got a nice Le Creuset pan here, which we're going to immediately put into the oven with some olive oil and get that heating up. We're going to make a base, and the base is going to be leeks and peppers and a little bit of garlic. Cook that down, soften all of that. In with some rice, some paprika, some saffron. And we've got the saffron soaking in water there already. And chicken stock. Cook all of that down. Once everything's almost cooked, we are going to add white fish. And here we've got some haddock and then some prawns on top. And they'll only take 4 or 5 minutes to cook. We're going to cook it so that we get a nice little crust on the bottom. Well, we're going to try and get this nice traditional crust on the bottom, the sockerat. The only way we're going to get that is if we put the pan on direct heat, as if we were cooking over an open fire, so we get a bit more intense heat underneath. The floor of the oven alone won't do that for us. So into the pan with the leeks and peppers. The leeks could be onions, but in this case we had some leeks, so they'll do very nicely. And we're going to add a little bit of garlic. And throughout this process, we'll keep a nice fire burning in one side of the Morso oven, so that we keep a flame going over the top, keep it nice and hot. And it'll also mean that we've got a nice supply of embers which we can bring underneath when we try and cook the sockerat on the base of the paella. The vegetables have had a few minutes to soften. So we're now going to add saffron and its water. Seasoning, good pinch of pepper, good pinch of salt, and a glass of white wine. I'm also going to stir in a nice spoonful of paprika. This is sweet paprika, could be hot if you fancy it with a little bit of bite. We've had a couple of minutes, so we're now going to stir in the rice. Get that all nicely coated with saffron and paprika. And then we're not going to stir it again. We're going to try and cook it so that we get this nice crust on the bottom. So I'm adding chicken stock here. And now we're going to try and set up the oven carefully so that we get some heat from underneath. I brought a bed of embers there. I've still got my fire going on the left-hand side. I'm going to sit this directly on that bed of embers, and it may just about generate the right amount of heat. That looks okay. Now that'll come up to a boil, and we want to just simmer that rice gently for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that, until it's nice and tender, and then we're going to add the fish. Our paella, our rice dish, has had 10 minutes. I've got the door set like this on the Morso. It just intensifies the heat behind the door, but there's still a big gap here, so the fire can get plenty of oxygen. And now what I want to do is bring the whole thing out and just reset those embers. So I'm going to bring some embers across from the fire, put them underneath, and then put the dish back on top. We can see that's cooking. It's got a lovely smell, getting nice, and the rice is all getting nice and sticky. And I'm digging out some embers from underneath there. We're 15 minutes in. I want to check to see if the rice is cooked, or if it's see how it's coming along. I think we're probably about 5 minutes off, so this is a good point to add the fish. But I will add a tiny bit more stock. Now I'm going to take this fish and nestle it down into the rice. This is a fantastic dish for serving a crowd of people. One dish and everybody's happy. And then the prawns can just go on top. Back into the oven. Nice flame burning over the top so that we get a little bit of a grilling effect on top. And a little bit of smokiness in the fish. The prawns are definitely cooked. The fish, definitely cooked. Lovely. The rice, nice and sticky. Wonderful smell. We're going to sprinkle a little bit of fresh herb over the top. I've got a little mix of oregano and fresh fennel there. A little finish of olive oil. So that's a wood-fired paella, cooked in the Morso Forno. The whole thing has taken about 25 minutes from start to finish. Very, very simple and fantastic for feeding a crowd of people for lunch or dinner. Really nice and summery and a really healthy dish. Thank you for joining us on Woodfired Weekly. We'll be back next week with another episode. If you've enjoyed this and found it useful, please subscribe to the channel. There'll be a blog with all the recipe and details, and we'll put a link to that in the notes below. Thanks for joining us.